Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. My name is Scott Morgan, we're the Motor City Mad Mouth, and we have a great show lined up today. Tonight's show is actually called The Abnormalities of Baseball, and I can tell you right now, okay, there were a lot of them over the past week. So I'm here to welcome Sal Tartaglia to the show. Welcome, Sal.
Thanks, Scott. I appreciate it.
We have a little bit of a Philly Smack reunion here. And I remember appearing on the Philly Smack show with Sal. Lou Landers, my co-host here on 108 Stitches.
Yes, you did.
And welcome back, Lou.
Hey, yeah, it's cool to have Sal here, back to where Scott and I met, actually, thanks to Sal and everyone out there in Philly. So awesome to have him here tonight.
I've never been accused of being a matchmaker before. I guess I'm one for one.
Yeah, it worked out. And of course, Rick Curti, who I've known forever. So we're glad to have you on. So it'll be a really good show today. Obviously, finding we're having a few technical difficulties getting on Facebook. No worries, we'll get it out there sooner or later. Nevertheless, we'll be able to share it one way or the other. So we have a busy agenda here today. And before we go any further, we want to let Sal go ahead. I have an introduction to you. So let everybody know a little bit about you.
Hello, America. I'm Sal Tartaglia. I am one of the co-hosts on Liberty Bell Smack on WWDB-AM 860 out of Philly. My co-host is Mark Mancini from Mancini Network. You're probably aware of him. And Marianne Costello, who has a television show, Bear All TV. The show, we're going to do our 25th on Thursday, our 25th show. We only started November. And, we were fortunate enough to have Mancini because of his contacts. We have a lot of A-list guys on, had Scott and Lou on previously, and the show was great. Just for everybody's information, I published a single book, just one so far, and it's called World Series Chronology. And there's different slants in there. It's not just statistics, who won and whatnot. So I think you'll enjoy it if you like oddities. And that's about it. And I'm learning as I go.
Very good. Well, like I said, hey, Lou, you know what? Why don't you let everybody know exactly some of the things you do? Because you do a lot of really good stuff as well. I'd like to kind of let everybody be versed a little bit earlier about what you do.
All right, sure. Yeah, I am head of baseball content, a director of MLB and baseball content at drroto.com. I write. I do tons of podcasts there. I'm on Sirius XM Fantasy Channel every Sunday at 9:30 a.m. And I have a weekly show, sometimes 2 per week, on Sports Byline USA and the Armed Forces Network, amongst many other things. But those are some of the highlights.
And Rick, for that matter, let everybody know what you're looking to try to get done out in North Carolina.
Well, I'm the founder and CEO of the Charlotte Bats. We have a website at www.charlottebats.com. And we're a grassroots movement to bring Major League Baseball to Charlotte, North Carolina.
All right, folks, if you want to find the broadcast, you go on to iHeartRadio and look up 108 Stitches Baseball Talk, subscribe, or you can subscribe to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts, or go to www.southfloridatribune.com. We have a busy agenda today, and I have a great crew, and I'm definitely looking forward to what we got. So we'll lead it off here, as they all say in baseball, leading it off with Japanese 20-year-old Roki Sasaki. We all know that he threw a 19K perfect game, and now we're piggybacking off of that situation, and he extends his streak to 17 consecutive perfect innings. Recent start, Chiba Lade Marine. So he was actually pulled after 8 innings in a 1-0 loss to the Hokkaido Nippon Ham Fighters Sunday, 14 Ks, and of course that previous start was 13 consecutive strikeouts. So and he had 19 that game. To me, that's pretty unbelievable, Sal, when you think about this Japanese guy, isn't it?
It is amazing. And everybody's up in the air because of the Kershaw ordeal, but this was absolutely a much easier decision. And the reason I don't necessarily agree with it, but I understand it more so than what we're doing here in America. And I have a theory as to why it happens to us so much in America, but we'll get to that later. But this kid had thrown 105 pitches in the perfecto. In the 8th inning, he had 102 pitches already. but he was still at 101 miles per hour his last pitch. But they said they pulled him out to protect his arm. And the reason it was 0-0 at the time. It wound up going into extras. They wound up losing anyway. So he might have thrown 130 pitches for no reason. The Harvey Haddocks of Japan, So it's a shame. It would have been amazing, but the kid may have suffered as a result, and he may not have. But the point is, the perfecto wouldn't have been. I mean, you can't look in a crystal ball, but the end result was, and we can all hindsight 2020, we can all say, well, it would have been a loss. So they saved him. So it turned out to be, a happy ending in a way, I think. Your thoughts?
What are your thoughts, Lou?
I have no issue with him being pulled after the 100 pitches, considering it was the back-to-back starts. 200 plus pitches in a matter of 5-6 days is a lot on any arm. Let alone a young arm at that, a guy that throws that hard. If he was throwing 92, 93, I wouldn't be as concerned. But when you're putting in that max effort for 100 plus, as Sal alluded to, I think it's a smart idea. And you know what? He can go out and maybe his next outing throw another 7 or 8 perfect innings and build upon the streak anyways. He doesn't need to get a perfect game every time to build upon like a crazy 20, 30, 40 inning straight of perfect game, right? So that'd be pretty cool on its own right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I don't have an issue either. He throws fast. He just came back, did a perfect game. Probably could have done back-to-back probably, but he's young. They want to save his arm. We pretty much know he's going to go to the majors. Every major league team will want him. So, I mean, it's a good move. I understand it. I love to see back-to-back no-hitter, but, maybe in my lifetime I will. But I understand, especially with all the analytics going on and everybody's so afraid they don't want to see the next Mark Pryor, who was pitching great and messed up his arm and never was the same, or even Fernando Mania and all those screwballs messed up his arm. So people are so afraid of that. So I totally get it.
It's funny you mentioned Pryor because they did the same thing in Chicago with Kerry Wood,
Yeah.
It's a shame.
Yeah, good point bringing up Kerry Wood. When you're talking about young pitchers, let alone Japanese younger pitchers, you don't know how hard they push those guys out in Japan to try to get them pushed. I know one thing, Billy Martin probably would be an interesting manager out there. He'd push anybody to those complete games. Anybody knows anything about the history of baseball? I know I got an intelligent crew today. Billy Martin was the guy that pushed his pitchers, I think, as hard as anybody that I've ever seen, Sal.
Yeah. Well, he brought Minnesota and Detroit. They weren't really that good of teams, either one. And the way he managed, I mean, he willed them to the postseason. They didn't go far, but Billy cracked the whip. But it was a different time, a different game. So.
All right. Well, when I talk about abnormalities of baseball, here's another one that we're going to throw at you. And that being the fact that Corey Seager was walked intentionally by Joe Madden with the bases loaded Friday. The Angels win the game 9-6. Okay, the second bases loaded walk in his career, and the third in the majors since 1950. A little bit of a history as Joe Madden walked Josh Hamilton when he was the manager of the Tampa Bay Rays. So, Corey Seager. We all know Barry Bonds got walked with the bases loaded in 1998, and Josh Hamilton in 2008. So, Joe Madden's been known to do what he's got to do. The Angels had a 5-run fifth inning, and evidently Joe Madden was looking to avoid the big innings. So, what can you say about Joe Madden, the guy that lives in buses? He does all kinds of crazy things. So, Sal, give us your Corey Seager take on this one.
Joe said he did it to shake them up. They came into the inning with a lead. When he did it, they had already relinquished the lead. They were down 1. But the pitcher, Austin Warren, he doesn't have a lot of experience. Last year, he only pitched 20 innings and he had 5 walks. This year, he pitched 2.1 and he's got 1, not including the intentional. So Joe may have thought, I don't know what his roster situation was. I know it was early. It was the 4th inning. The situation wasn't critical. Again, if it didn't work, they'd have crucified him. But it's ironic that the 3 times you had mentioned, all those games turned out to be wins for the manager that did that ridiculous move. So, I can't justify. I wouldn't do it. But then again, I'm sitting here in Broomall, and Joe Maddon's a major league manager. So, but it's odd to say the least. Even Aaron Boone questioned it. I mean, he didn't criticize him, but he was perplexed.
When moves like that work, then it is hard to second guess a person in a game like baseball, where second guessing is the nature of this animal, right, Mr. Opinion?
Yeah, I just remember seeing Mike Trout's face that when you see him in there and he looked so confused, like, what in the world? I had no idea Corey Seager was Babe Ruth or Lou Gehrig or it's just Joe Mann. He does some nutty things. I hate it. I think it's dumb. I mean, the Barry Bonds one I can understand because he was so jacked up on steroids and he was hitting like 800 home runs and had like 1,000 on base percentage. So that I understood. But Corey Seager, really, and to shake him up, maybe he's trying to shake up Artie Moreno to get some decent pitching. I mean, I don't know. So would I've done it? Absolutely not. It's just something with the bases loaded, it's Corey Seager. No offense to Corey Seager, but Corey Seager. And so, but he won. So that's all that matters. But would I have done it? No.
Yeah. So, Lou, I think the contract for Corey Seager, wasn't it $325 million?
It's a lot of money. Yeah, he got a lot of money.
Like 10 years. So I guess that is worth an intentional walk, getting paid a lot of money.
Yeah, a couple things. I was totally against them doing this until Sal told me that Aaron Boone was against it too, because I think Aaron Boone's an idiot. I think he's a horrible manager, and I wish the Yankees would fire him. So if Boone didn't like it, it probably was a smart move. But in all seriousness, I think it's interesting that all 3 times this has happened, it's been left-handed hitters. Twice it's been left-handed hitters on the Texas Rangers, and twice it's been Joe Maddon. They won, cool, but yeah, I could never endorse walking in a run, especially when even the best players in the game are only successful, 3 times out of 10, 3.5 times out of 10 if you're on the really, really elite side. So chances are 65 to 70% of the time you're going to get him out anyways. So I'm not sure why you're taking a risk. And if you do want to walk him, instruct your pitcher to pitch around him, but don't give him the free pass. Just don't give him anything to hit. There's ways to walk guys intentionally without actually doing the whatever they do now, like waving the glove and not throwing the pitches. You see it all the time, guys getting pitched around. Pitch around them if you're that concerned, but don't just give them a free run. I don't care if you win the game or lose the game. It makes absolutely zero sense. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Juan Soto or Acuna or Mike Trout or Tatis or the elite in the game. Corey Seager's a great hitter, and he's proven to be that, but he's not good enough that he's going to warrant being given a free run. He's also not really known as a power hitter either. It's not like you are overly concerned about a grand slam. Is it possible? Sure. But worst case scenario, he might have walked. He might have gotten a base hit somewhere and 2-run score. But again, 70% of the time, you're probably getting him out. So
a lot depends on the situation and who's coming up next, but they wound up scoring 3 more runs anyway. So they could have been plugs. It didn't matter. So the move was wrong.
You might have gone Seager to pop out, and then it wouldn't have happened. You actually extended the inning for them.
Right.
Well, I'll just say this much. Joe Maddon is a different bird all the way anyways. Number 1, he wins with the Tampa Bay Rays. 2, he snaps the Cubs' 108-year championship drought. And number 3, he ends up having a 2-way player in Shohei Ohtani winning the MVP. So, I don't know what's more quirky about the Triple Crown for all the abnormalities rolled into one manager.
Well, I love him because he gave me the title in 2008. I love him.
Well, there you go. So, what can I tell you? That's true. The Philadelphia Phillies did end up beating Madden. So, nothing like a little bit of Philly reminiscing for sure.
Yeah, and you can argue that he only won the World Series with the Cubs because of that rain delay. He overused Aroldis Chapman that entire postseason and in the World Series. Chapman almost blew it. Basically, did blow it. And if not for that rain delaying that Game 7, Cleveland might have come away with that game. So Madden fairly lucky to have won that World Series. And I do think, okay, overall, he's been a good manager because he's won games. He's won games with a number of different organizations. He's not afraid to kind of go outside the box, which I do like to see, considering there's so many managers nowadays that literally buy the binder. I mean, Joe Girardi, I love the guy, and I think the Phillies got a great get, but his nickname in New York was the binder because he'd literally go buy the book. And so many managers are doing that now. So that's one thing I do give Madden respect for, is not going by the book, but he went way too far outside the book on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny how Lou, I'm really glad you brought this up. Okay. Aroldis Chapman, Joe Madden really didn't care whatsoever how hard he used him because, number one, he figured he was going to be a rental. So if I'm going to get a rental, I'm going to take that rental 200 miles an hour, and I don't really, frankly, care. And, I'm glad you brought that up. I really am.
Chapman honestly has never been the same pitcher since that.
Did you see what he did this week? One game he walked the bases loaded. They brought in another pitcher. I forget.
He got the save. It was Michael King. He got the
with
save.
no outs, and he saved the day. He got what did he get? A strikeout and a double play.
Double play. Yeah.
And then the next game that Aroldis was in, he did the same thing, walking in the winning run. So I mean, he laid 2 eggs in a row. He may be. I mean, if that continues, you got to wonder: is he at the end of the line?
He's had command issues since that postseason, and very erratic at times as well. Still very dominant. Most of the time he's still very good. Still one of the better closers out there, but he just has not been the same pitcher since that postseason, and he has become more injury prone too. Madden really did kind of ruin him. They got that ring though, so I guess that's all that matters, especially when you're a Cubs fan.
Yeah. I'm so glad you brought that up, though, Lou. Thanks. Because you know what? So that just defines Joe Madden even more. I mentioned 3 things. You decided to add the 4th, and Aroldis Chapman hadn't been the same since. So we'll talk about. So we went from one perfect game to the 7-inning perfect game, which is probably being talked about all week anyhow. And for those of you who haven't heard by now, which we know you have, we'll talk about Clayton Kershaw being pulled 7 innings, a perfect game by Rick Curti's favorite manager, Dave Roberts.
And I'm a Dodgers fan.
Yeah. So go figure. I don't know. I mean, I know that Clayton Kershaw has been defending Joe Madden. What is he supposed to do anyways? We talked about the shortened spring training. I didn't talk to Don Mattingly about that over the weekend. When I was in Miami, I had other agendas to take care of. And obviously the Kershaw one wasn't something I prepared to do. And I didn't really care because that wasn't what I had to do. So, all right, Rick, this is your opportunity to rant about Dave Roberts, since you have an easy way to do it with Clayton Kershaw's 7-inning perfect game.
Well, Lou talked about Aaron Boone being an idiot. I think Dave Roberts is the village idiot, and I'm a Dodgers fan. I've been trying to get Mike Scioscia to be the man. I want Mike Scioscia to be the manager of the Dodgers. I've been saying that for the last 2 or 3 years. Roberts is a great manager, but he does the most idiotic things. It's the second time that he's done this.
They should have kept Mattingly.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I love Mattingly. I wish they kept him too. But if we can't bring Mattingly back, I'd love to see Mike Scioscia. But Roberts, he just does these dumb, stupid things. And of course, he's going to blame it on the short spring training and all this stuff. And to me, it's just a bunch of analytics, mumbo jumbo stuff. You don't take somebody out. I don't care. You don't take them out. In today's baseball world, if Nolan Ryan was pitching and he's just striking everybody, you're going to take Nolan Ryan out?
Nolan Ryan would have beat him up. If Dave Roberts came out to get the ball, Nolan Ryan would have punched him in the face.
Yeah, and that's what I miss about baseball. And Kershaw, God bless him. Oh, are you kidding me? You think he was happy to be taken out of a perfect game with 80 pitches? He didn't throw like 110 pitches. He threw 80 pitches.
He handled it with class.
You don't take him out. And this is the second time Roberts has done this. He's an idiot. Right. And please, Dodgers, bring Scioscia. We want Mike Scioscia to be the manager. And I'm a Dodgers fan. I grew up in Los Angeles. My whole family are Dodger fans. Bring in Mike Scioscia. I'm just tired of Dave Roberts doing these dumb, stupid things. He's lucky he's won the World Series and in the short year, but I mean, he won the World Series. But no, you don't do this. Just like intentionally walking someone with the bases loaded. It's just some things you don't do. Just like you don't bunt to ruin a no hitter. There's just some things you don't do, and you don't take somebody out, especially Clayton Kershaw is going to go to the Hall of Fame.
One thing
I hate
Kershaw
this.
hasn't done on his resume is throw a perfect game.
Yeah, I mean he's done everything else.
Everything.
Yeah, and I don't care if it's April. I don't care what it is. He was on a roll. You don't take him out, and this is the second time he's done it. Just go away, Dave Roberts, and bring in Mike Scioscia as the Dodgers' new manager.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Sal, now you know how Rick feels about.
I'm very shy.
Dave
I'm
Roberts.
going to play devil's advocate because there's two sides to this, and I don't agree with taking them out either. I don't want you to think I'm advocating that, but the justification. Well, first of all, the 80 pitches weren't stressful pitches. See, you can throw 80 hard pitches, okay? They were non-stressful pitches. So but the justification they were using was they were talking about Santana, and he threw 100 Johan in New York when he threw the. Ironically, it wasn't even a no-hitter. They gave who was the batter? Beltran. They said it was foul. That was a hit, but I don't want to get into that. But they said, he threw 134 pitches and he went like 3 and 6 the rest of the way. He was never the same. But this was a whole different scenario because they weren't stressful pitches. It was nowhere near 100 yet, even, number one. You alluded to, Rick, that Roberts also did that to Rich Hill in 2016. So he's got a history of aggravating fans, But I believe the culprit in all of this is Little League. You got guys letting kids throw hooks like way too much, more so than if they were in the bigs, like because kids can't hit a curve right away, until they adjust in their teens or something. But somebody's got to go back down to the grassroots level of this thing and correct it. If they have to mandate a rule, then I'm all for that. I mean, you never want to give the state or the government any power because you can never get it back if you should change your mind later. But, it's just common sense. Stop throwing curves when you're 9, 10, 11 years old because it's going to show up 10 years later and it's going to cost you.
Yeah.
Cost you
like
big.
Fernando with all the screwballs that the Dodgers did. Messed them up.
But I'm wondering that kid in Japan. I'm just wondering their little league. I've never been to Japan, but I would bet my right arm that they're way more fundamental than we are. And with that said, I bet they probably either limit or don't allow the same thing for their children in the little leagues with the hooks and everything because it's just going to cost you later.
And they're teaching these young kids these stupid, annoying bat flips, which is another thing that I hate.
I don't even want to comment on that. All that.
It's this new generation, and the baseball is just, I just don't get it. It's all about me. Look at how far I can hit a home run. Look at how far I can flip a bat. Who cares?
Right. So if the chin music arrives after, I'm all for that. Okay, you want to flip the bat? Everybody has to be accepting. It can't be just your way. So if I give you a little chin music the next time you're up, don't charge the mound, dude. It's part of the game, just like your bat flip has snuck its way into becoming part of the game, which I'm against. But, I mean, you poke the bear, you're going to get bit. So, if you got to accept all ways, not just one way.
Well, the irony is you have 1 week where you have Roki Sasaki, which we understood the reasons for doing it because he's young. And yes, you don't want the Kerry Wood comparison. And then you got Clayton Kershaw where, he's not quite as young. And I'll just say this, okay. I would have liked to have seen him get the perfect game. Nowadays, it seems to be the norm, instead of the exception to the norm, that guys aren't being allowed to. You're seeing more combined no-hitters. You're seeing more perfect games being denied, which I think stinks. I really do, because we're losing the purity of the game anyhow about what makes these accomplishments are tough enough as it is, let alone the fact that we don't get to do it. And then during the pandemic, would you have a 7-inning no-hitter that nobody paid attention to? So, yeah, I know, again, when I talk about abnormalities of baseball, boy, I don't think we could have titled it any better, right, Lou?
No, and thank you for acknowledging me with my hand up there. I was being polite. I just have some thoughts here on this Kershaw perfect game thing. So, of course, I'm not happy to see him get pulled. I was watching really since the 3rd inning of that game, and I was watching him. He was just dazzling with that nasty breaking ball of his, locating, looking like vintage Kershaw. At the same time, I'm just going to play devil's advocate as Sal did. He barely pitched last year. He's had a lot of injury issues. There was a shortened spring training. He was not stretched out. The biggest thing that I heard, and I think I understand it because I respect the guy so much, Joe Torre came out and commented on it and had said that he's been faced with those predicaments in the past. And the issue is you either take them out after 7 or you let them go the distance, because you can't take them out after the 8th and say, no, you can't go out there and pitch the 9th when you're 3 outs away. So Roberts wasn't that predicament. He had to decide, I'm either going to let this guy go. It might be 110, 120 pitches by the end of it. You just don't know. Or I need to take him out now, because I'm not taking him out when he's 3 outs away. And that was the one thing I heard throughout the week that did resonate with me. Still upset as a baseball fan that I didn't get to see Kershaw go for it. I wanted to see it, but I think that's something that it was noteworthy.
Great point. Let me ask you a question, Rick, real fast.
Sure.
Didn't Rich Hill pitch into the 8th when they pulled him out of his perfecto?
Yeah, and then didn't they lose? They lost the game too.
And one last note on your Dodger fandom and Scioscia. His family lives in the neighboring town. So if I bump into anybody, I'll mention that Rick Curti would like you to manage.
I was like, why is it Mike Scioscia the manager? And I'm like, Dave Roberts, and I gave him a chance, and he's a great manager, but Lou hates Aaron Boone. I was with Aaron Boone too. I hated that hire, and I don't know why they gave him an extension.
You know what, Rick? I will admit
Roberts.
I was okay with the hire at first. I thought that he would be interesting because he took time away from the game after being a player to be a broadcaster, and I thought that type of perspective he would have had of being a broadcaster covering a number of different teams would have made him well liked by the media, which is a big thing in New York. But I quickly got over that when I saw the bonehead move after bonehead move after bonehead move. I mean, just the other night, they lose a game to the Orioles because it's a tie game. They have a pitcher in, Weisick has thrown 30 pitches, walking guys. The Orioles pinch hit with a lefty. There's a lefty ready, warm in the pen, just standing there waiting to come in. Boone sticks with the guy that's erratic, thrown 30 pitches, not on his game. What does that guy do? Base hit up the middle. The Yankees lose the game. Lefty sitting there waiting. I'm not saying warm up the lefty, stall. The guy was literally in the bullpen waiting. The Orioles handed you the lefty-lefty matchup, and you don't take it. And that's just one of the many things that Boone does on a consistent basis that drives me absolutely insane.
Well, maybe they can bring Derek Jeter to the Yankees. Derek Jeter can be the new Yankees manager. How's that? I mean,
Jeter's too popular and famous to ever be a manager. That's why he tried to get into ownership. Honestly, I would have preferred A-Rod as a manager.
We love
Boone, and I don't want A-Rod
down here.
A-Rod, yeah.
Well, there's only one thing I want to say as before we move on, and I'm going to reference you, Lou. Okay, I'm glad that you brought up the Joe Torre thing. That's either 7 or 9. That to me was something I hadn't heard before, and now that I understand the way you brought it up, I'm not saying that I like the fact that he got pulled after 7.
Yeah, me either.
But the reality is to me, I don't know if I have any more sympathetic. If I'm more sympathetic to Dave Roberts. But your logic behind what Joe Torre said to me, and Joe Torre's a winner anyways, I guess I'm okay with that. So with that said, as we move on here a little bit, players need to be vaccinated to go play in Toronto, and how it affects the games. Well, obviously, the Boston Red Sox, right, Lou, are having some issues as they go back across the border. So why don't you shed a little bit of light on that?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not just going to be the Boston Red Sox. It's going to be a lot of teams that go to Toronto. And there's 2 issues with it. One, it gives them a crazy home advantage because there will be players on all these teams that aren't vaccinated. And I'm pro-choice for anything. Basically anything, I'm pro-choice. So I am totally fine with players wanting to or not wanting to be vaccinated. The second issue with this, besides how it affects the game, is now these players get scrutinized because they're not vaccinated. And it becomes this whole big mess in the media and by fans, and players don't deserve that. I understand that their play is up for scrutiny because they're professional athletes, but their personal life isn't. especially when they're not breaking any laws. So we're not only affecting the quality of the games, where some of the best players on these teams might not be able to travel with the team to Toronto, we're also having them scrutinized for something that is totally their choice and a personal choice. And I just think it's kind of ridiculous in its own right. I understand that Toronto itself and the Blue Jays didn't make the rule. It's the country of Canada, a country I'm from, a country that I love. I don't agree with this, though. And I think for something as big as professional sports, there should be exceptions made. If you will need to quarantine them by picking them up from the airport, putting them in a special car and taking them to a special hotel room, whatever. But the Rogers Center has a hotel literally attached to the stadium. Quarantine them in there, walk them down to the stadium and walk them back up. I mean, there's ways around it, and there seems to be no effort to try and make it work for every other team. It's not like there's multiple teams in Canada. It's one team in Canada and 29 teams in the United States. It's not the 29 teams in the United States that should make their changes. It's the one team in Canada that should make the changes.
So basically, competitive imbalance, it happens to favor the Blue Jays because of that rule that you have, is really, if I'm understanding you correct, Lou.
Basically, but my bigger issue is what it does from a scrutiny standpoint of these players. Challenge them all you want on them having a good or a bad performance. That's fair. That's fair game. They're professional athletes. Things are televised. Their social media, but their personal lives have nothing to do with what they do on the field. And that's going to become a problem more and more as the season progresses. Just wait.
Interesting. All right, Sal.
And there's way too many contradictions with this vaccination thing. For instance, I know it doesn't involve baseball, but I just want to go back late last year. The Flyers played in Montreal, and there was no fans in the Forum. And the next night, there was a fight, and it was filled. I mean, come on. The thing with Kyrie, he was in the stands, but once he got to the locker room, they fined Brooklyn $50K because, I mean, listen. If you're going to make a rule, stop contradicting it, because that fuels fire to the argument then. So, yeah, it's crazy. And I didn't get a chance to peruse the entire schedule, but I know the A's have 6 players on the COVID list right now. And they play Toronto July 5th and 6th, but it's going to be in Oakland, so that won't be an issue. Plus, it's far enough away where whoever has it,
you know what's ironic, Sal?
Yeah.
Is that Oakland just came from playing in Toronto.
Yeah, well, right. And Boston.
And now they all have COVID.
And Boston's playing Toronto now. And they have 3 people. Are they in their organization? Not players, they said, right? They're just organization people.
In Boston, I think. But with Oakland, there was a number of players.
Yeah,
so you need to be vaccinated to go to Toronto. But guess what? The first team to get hit by COVID issues was Oakland, who came from Toronto. Exactly. So something's got to give here, folks.
Exactly.
Rick?
Yeah, it's just too much. We don't know what's going on. You know, I was just watching the news the other day, and they're talking about airplanes, and there are people who have masks on that had no idea that you don't have to wear your mask anymore. Oh, you don't? I didn't know that. So that's the confusion what's going on. Like, some places are like, you don't have to wear a mask. Some you do. And I mean, I'm fully vaccinated, but that was my choice. You know, and if I have to wear a mask somewhere, I put it on. And if I don't have to wear it, I don't wear it. I just want to get back to my normal life. But, you know, I'm just like, there's just so much contradiction going on. Just like some place you can wear one, some places you don't, some place you have to be vaccinated, some place you have to show proof of vaccination. And I think people are just tired of it. They're sick of it. We've been going through this for 2.5 years now with COVID, you know, and right now, I don't know what the CDC guidelines are. I don't know what's happening, what's going on. But like Lou said, you know, one place someone could play and another, oh, yeah, you can't be here because you got to be vaccinated. So I think that's what's irritating and frustrating people, is that we just don't have no idea what these guidelines are. They're all up in the air, and it's just so much contradiction everywhere.
You know, all I'll say to this, and again, I'm going to lean toward your direction again, Lou. Okay, in addition to the competitive side, you're right. The scrutiny that it does with these guys and their families and personal choices, I think, where you really nailed that. I really do.
Well, Rick's favorite topic, Aaron Judge, there's rumors that he's not vaccinated. So the Yankees have to go play their biggest rival potentially in the division in terms of competitiveness without their best player, because he's not vaccinated. Why should the whole organization be punished by a personal choice of one specific person? And why should that one specific person be scrutinized for making a choice about his own body.
Yeah.
Well, I can appreciate that. And the only thing I'll say about my vaccination stance, since I don't mind talking about it, is I lost my Aunt Judy to COVID-19. She was like an older sister to me. And part of the thing I felt in my mind was, if she died, I was going to get the vaccinations, the booster, whatever. If that isn't a painful lesson for me personally to lose undoubtedly the closest person in my life outside of my dad, my wife, and my brother, I don't know what it is. But again, everybody has personal choice what they do. And right now, I don't fly a whole lot. I personally would rather drive. That way I feel like it's easier to do it. I'll fly only when I have to and I'm really locked in time. But I understand their personal choice. And I'm not so sure that we'll ever have a certain set of rules, but everybody likes to knock the Miami Marlins. I'll have an opportunity since I began covering them during the 2020 season, how everybody laughed at them because they were throwing balls in their socks and they were the ones that were called out first. And then the rest of the dominoes dropped with the St. Louis Cardinals and everything was thrown out of whack. So, but yet Don Mattingly, everybody's favorite person, navigated through it and they found their way into the playoffs. So, yeah, I guess that's probably another reason that bring on Don Mattingly as a manager someplace. But how do you talk about the Marlins without COVID-19, knowing that they lost everybody on the planet in Atlanta? Oh, what a nightmare that was. So, all right. Well, now that we've got the COVID-19 thing out of the way, let's talk about best fits for former All-Star Justin Upton to sign with the former LA Angel and the inside information, Mr. Landers.
Well, if he's vaccinated, Toronto, maybe, right? No, but in all seriousness, it's interesting. The Angels did not cut him because he can't be a productive player even in a platoon. They just had a lot of young outfielders with Marsh and Adele there, and then Ohtani's kind of locked into the DH. They have Trout, so he wasn't really a great fit for the Angels. But I think Upton could help a number of teams. Even whether you're looking for a DH type, because he has lost some abilities in the outfield at this point. I know he was getting some reps at first base early in camp with the Angels to try and find him a spot. So maybe teams get creative that way. But with the NLDH, there's all these more opportunities. Teams have gone a lot more to platoons these days as well. So if you're looking for a platoon with a left-handed DH and you want to have a right-handed option, I think he could fit in there. A team like the San Francisco Giants might be interesting. If a team like his former team, the team he came up with, the Arizona Diamondbacks, were interested in a reunion there, that can make sense because they have Seth Beer, who's an excellent hitter against right-handed pitching. But he might need to wait for a key injury, Justin Upton, a key injury to a significant bat, and kind of go from there. I thought maybe, believe it or not, when the Blue Jays lost Teoscar Hernandez I'm not kidding here, that he might have been a nice fit for the Blue Jays, but they're deep. They have enough depth there. But I really think he could fit in anywhere that needs a veteran player who can hit left-handed pitching and play some outfields every now and again.
Sal, what's your take?
Well, last year he hit 211 and he only had 4 steals, which, was part of his game. And the Angels were on the hook for $28 million had they kept him. And they did the same thing with Pujols. By doing what they did, any team can pick him up for the minimum. And I don't know the extent of the rules, but I don't think they have to pay him the entire amount. So,
I think most of it's guaranteed, Sal.
Oh, okay.
In baseball, money is usually guaranteed in the contracts, unless there's something that stipulates otherwise in the contract.
Okay, so it was similar to what they did with Pujols, but not the same. But I understand because his production's way off, but he's going to get picked up somewhere. And as Lou said, probably an injury will open the door for him because even if he's not the same ball player, he's still dynamic and he's going to help you. So I don't know.
I actually had a chance to talk to Justin Upton at the All-Star game in Miami. What a super nice guy, too. He really is. And I think the biggest thing that he does have going, as a lot of veteran players, is a universal designated hitter. So, now that you have the same rule amongst the 30 teams, then it gives them a puncher's chance to stick around. So, again, I'll confer with you guys. It's all about a key injury. He gets picked up, and hopefully he stays in shape. Rick?
I'm sorry. I was just going to say real quick. It wasn't just last year. He's been in decline for 3 or 4 years now.
For a while, yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Rick.
No, it's fine. So again, the Angels signed somebody to a big contract with lots of money, and of course he's not productive. Boy, where have we seen that? Pujols, Josh Hamilton. I mean, Arthur Moreno, please get some pitching. You need some pitching, all right?
Hey, they got Noah Syndergaard, man. He's looked good so far.
We'll see. Hopefully he can. If you put some duct tape on him, and hopefully, and a prayer, hopefully he can keep healthy. But I love Thor, but he just can't stay healthy. I hope he can. But
Poor
Trout.
Poor Trout. He's never going to get to the post. It's a shame.
It's funny though. The Angels just have no luck with pitching either. They bring in Dylan Bundy after he has a good season elsewhere. You bring in him, he stinks. Now he goes to Minnesota and he's pitching good again. Yeah. Basically, they can bring in someone who's been good. Oh, Alex Cobb's another great example. Alex Cobb has been a pretty steady middle of the rotation guy. Wasn't that good with the Angels. Already looks great again. Now that he's with the Giants. So they just can't get lucky with pitching. Even Ohtani, every other start seems to get blown up.
Exactly.
The guy can hit, but as a pitcher, he's very inconsistent.
Yeah.
I agree.
So with Upton, I mean, he's just a veteran player. Somebody will have to pick him up. Has to be an injury, but he's been on the decline. So I mean, he'll get some interest, but it has to be like I agree with someone who's hurt, and someone can just put him in there. Yeah, it has to be a platoon or something, something like that. Maybe he come off the bench, but he's just not the same player. He's just Father Time catches up with you.
Yeah.
Well, since you guys brought up Aaron Judge, okay, that segues me to my next topic, okay?
Oh boy.
And this one here is another dynamo from L Square, okay? Players waiting until the offseason to discuss contract extensions rather than in season. So
Scott, let me say this actually did not come up because of Aaron Judge. I was told by a friend in Toronto who has some affiliations with the Toronto Blue Jays that Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who we all know is a big time star, has said that he won't talk extension during the season. Now, he's not an impending free agent next year, but believe it or not, I believe he's already in his 4th year in the big leagues. So it's coming faster than you think. And by no means do I think he's going to leave. But I do find it interesting that players always say, I don't want it in season. And the simple reason is, they don't want it to be a distraction. But at the same time, you would kind of think like anything can happen with these players, right? I mean, right now, Vladdy is known as one of the top hitters in all of Major League Baseball, but something could easily happen or he could get hurt, God forbid, and it could change the entire trajectory of kind of his career and the outlook moving forward. If he has an opportunity to sign a massive deal right now in season, I'm not sure why you wait. Again, the one reason I can think of is distraction, but sometimes you got to be selfish and think big picture.
I agree, but the thing that's led me up to this whole thing that when you brought it up was I was thinking, Aaron Judge talked about I'm not negotiating in season, so get it done before opening day. And of course,
his situation is different though because he is an impending free agent. Vladdy's not.
Right. No, I understand that they're different, but I can appreciate where you're coming from when you brought one negotiating in season versus during the off season. That's the only place where I'm drawing the correlation. Every situation notably is different. So,
could
but
you
either
also
way,
not make the argument that not signing the deal before the season is just as big, if not more of a distraction than actual talking the contract in season? Because I'm not saying it's the reason, but Judge is off to a terrible start.
Right.
And sure, it could be he's just not warmed up. Yeah, I mean, some guys start slow. It happens all the time.
Right.
Some of the best players of baseball hitting below the Mendoza line right now because it's 10 days in. But let's be real. It could be just as big of a distraction, if not a bigger distraction. Exactly. Instead of talking about the contract, they're talking about why didn't you sign the contract?
Yeah.
So
he wanted this absorbent amount of money for all this years, and like you said, Lou, he's going to be 30. People see that and say, here we go again with these greedy baseball players making millions and millions and millions of dollars, and they turn it down, and it's just they're a bunch of divas, and I mean that's a distraction right there. And he's already struggling, and you're in New York City where the New York fans are not very kind sometimes, and Sal would know that about the Philly fans, right? When they boot Santa Claus.
Well, the true story behind that was Santa didn't show up. They took some drunk out of the stands, and he was horrible. So they were giving him, a raspberry only with a snowball. But in our defense, they were saying the same thing the other night about that new kid Stott. When he said, "I hate this," right? And
Baum. I think it was
Baum, I'm sorry.
Alex
Yes.
Baum who said
And
that.
and
Yeah.
everybody was made, so there's going to be T-shirts and all. And the next night they gave him a standing O. So I told all my New York buddies, I said, "What happened to the T-shirts? We're not as vicious as everybody says. We're very passionate, just like New York, just like Boston. I think the East Coast has the most knowledge, and I think we're the best fans. St. Louis, they say they make an argument, but they're just like."
They're very kind.
Man, like they're too accepting. They've been lucky to have a great franchise.
Like
But would they be the same way with a bad team? I doubt it. But like you were saying, and I'm not siding with the owners on this topic, but I think the players have too much levity. Lou, I agree with you. It's just as much of a distraction. So depending on the individual, although it seems like a rubber stamp answer, they all say it, but depending on it, it could be a distraction, but it's probably bigger because it's looming overhead. I would want it done one way or the other. They're taking a gamble on themselves because if they have a great year, they can command more, and that's all well and good. But you mentioned Vlad earlier, and a synopsis of this, to put it in a nutshell. Taking a gamble on yourself for the season, and it's not working out for Judge so far. Vlad had a 3-homer game, but he got stepped on, and he hurt his finger. Matter of fact, he had 2 homers after getting stepped on. The next night, he had 4 Ks. So in a nutshell, there's the same scenario, only in a 2-day span as opposed to the whole season. You gamble on yourself, you never know what's going to happen.
And to take it a step further, because Judge is becoming a free agent. Vlad doesn't need a new contract for a couple.
No,
of
I'm
years.
not using him in that example. I was using his
Yeah.
injury in the 2 games,
Yeah.
how disparaging they were. Matter of fact, he's the first guy in history to have a 3-homer game and then a 4K game back to back.
No, so sorry, I wasn't saying on your point. I was taking to another point. It is a bigger distraction. The more I've heard you talk about it for Judge, because every single game, it's now a distraction. Because when he has a bad game, or he doesn't come through with guys in scoring position and 2 outs late in the game, whatever it might be, every time he doesn't do something well, he gets scrutinized for it. Because, you're not worth the money. You're not worth the money. Right. And then multiply that by 1 million being in New York, not in Minnesota or Cleveland or wherever you might be. It's a even bigger distraction. Now, if he got off to a start where he's hitting 400 with 4 homers and 10 RBIs already, it wouldn't be a distraction.
Exactly.
They'd be like, pay him, Yankees. It'd be all over the news. And right now, it probably has a picture of Judge in the news, the newspaper, where he's like, "You're a bum. Get out of here. You want this much money?" And it's New York. I mean, it's a huge media market, great big city, and like I said, the fans, they don't care if you're a Yankee or not. If you're not hitting, they'll boo you.
When I was. Go right ahead, Sal.
Well, about the distraction, like, and Rick said, if he was hitting 40 homers and all, it would be all well and good. But even if he was doing well, and accolades and everything, I mean, it would be a good distraction. Still a distraction. It's still there. It's the elephant in the room.
Because then they're saying, well, why didn't he get paid?
Right.
If he's doing so well.
Right.
So it's a bigger distraction not signing the deal in the offseason than it is actually just negotiating a deal in the offseason, because the negotiation at least is done off the field, whereas the distractions are actually on the field when you haven't signed the deal.
So let me just throw a crazy hypothetical, and I love watching you guys go back and forth on this, okay? Waiting to the offseason, doing it in season and all that. But the one thing that I really have to bring up is this, okay? What about George Steinbrenner? Do we even get to this conversation in season and off season?
You've been signed already. You've been locked, signed.
Not only would he have been signed already, he might have been traded before he even debuted.
Exactly.
With George Steinbrenner.
But Scott, there was also the days when a manager could tell a player what to do,
Yeah, right. No, I'm with you.
I think I told you on one of these past shows, Scott, that if George Steinbrenner was still here, the Yankees would have Harper, the Yankees would have Machado, the Yankees would have Max Scherzer. You name it, the Yankees would have them, because Steinbrenner would have flown them in on a private jet, courted them, basically said, "Here's a blank check."
Yeah.
That's not the way it happens anymore. The closest thing to that now is on the other side of town in New York now with Steve Cohen. And that's why I have mad respect for him, because
he's just throwing out money.
Whether he's spending the money smartly or not, at least he's going for it.
Uncle
all
Steve.
These teams have the money. All these teams have the money from their TV revenue. They just choose not to use it. Baltimore, I believe every team made over $100 million last year just on their national TV deals. Baltimore spending $30 million of that this year on their players.
Max Scherzer makes
That's
more
on
money than the
Baltimore.
whole team.
That's not them being a small market or not
no
being
poor
a
team.
team.
Angelos
That's
needs to
on
go.
Baltimore and only on Baltimore.
Well, we know that Lou's already setting up a future show when we talk about what constitutes a market size. So thank you very much, Lou, for throwing that out there for our
I'm
audience
always
out
planning
there.
ahead, brother. Always planning ahead.
Oh, I know. I've gotten to work with you for a while, and I'm having the time of my life. So when I turn this show over to you next week and go on forward and just giving my little bits and pieces, it don't matter. Meanwhile, it doesn't make a lick of difference. No matter who's on, I'm still having a good old time anyway.
One more controversial topic before we wrap up tonight.
Sure.
Are you guys ready?
Yeah.
Sure.
Trevor Bauer. Should he be allowed to pitch again? Will he be allowed to pitch again? I have a couple thoughts, and then I'll turn it over to you guys. By no means do I condone what he did or what is alleged that he did. I think it's terrible. If it's true, it's not. And I'm not here to judge that because I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a judge. I'm not a jury. From a baseball standpoint, there's no reason why he should not be allowed to pitch again because Aroldis Chapman got accused of something like this, and he's pitching. Marcell Ozuna of the Braves, who's back playing this year, got accused of something doing this, caught on camera, shown. You can go Google it right now. Marcell Ozuna, domestic violence. So I'm not really sure what Trevor Bauer has done that other players haven't done. Sat out their suspension, faced the penalties for it, and come back and played Major League Baseball. I don't get it. And they keep extending this decision of whether he's even going to be able to play or not. Look, it's a Dodgers prerogative if they decide we don't want him. That's up to them. That's on them. But to not allow him to play or not allow him to be potentially traded from the Dodgers so that he can play is absurd to me. No matter, regardless of what he may or may not have done. If you're going to let some guys do it, you can't let others. It kind of goes back to the whole letting Ortiz into the Hall of Fame when he took steroids, but not letting the other steroid guys in. Yeah. It's all or nothing in all these types of situations.
Right.
Sal.
There's a lot going on here that doesn't meet the eye. I was amazed to hear, it's perplexing really, that the union and the league agreed to this. I don't know. The union's not even backing them. So there may be some other issues. I don't get it.
PC, bro. It's a PC world and we're all living in it.
Yeah, but still, I mean, then he forced the issue because there's supposed to be a binding agreement and he wanted to attack it. And if there wasn't a document, he was just going to show up. Then Manfred was faced with the decision whether or not he had to suspend him. And, he's due $32 million this year and next, and suspended players don't get paid. So he's not suspended yet. His leave is extended. But I'm going to give you, and again, like you, I don't condone it either if it's true. But the DA is not bringing any charges. A judge didn't even grant a restraining order. They grant restraining orders whether you're guilty or not, just on complaints. So, I mean, I don't think he did what he's accused of doing. And, how about Deshaun Watson? He's been accused of the same thing 23 times, and he's allowed to play.
Different sport, but still, he's done it. Yeah, he's done it way more. He's not only allowed to play. You see the contract he signed?
Guaranteed.
Man, it's amazing.
So,
it's amazing.
I'm not sure why they're making a spectacle out of Trevor Bauer. And
there's something going on besides.
The only thing I can think of is he's just not a likable guy. A lot of people think he's arrogant and kind of a.
You ever see him interviewed? He's an idiot.
He's arrogant, and then the whole sword
But
thing,
you know what? That doesn't change the fact that he has the right as every other MLB player does.
Bonds was a creep to the press, so
big jerk. Oh yeah.
I don't know. I don't get it. What do you think?
Aaron Rodgers is kind of a jerk too.
Yeah, right. But I like the way he's
Aaron Rodgers.
standoffish.
I have no issues with those.
He's not a prick. He's like sly. He's like he has a wry smile when he says leaves open-ended comments. I love Rodgers.
But even, you know what though? Even if they are jerks, I don't have an issue with it. I'm fine with people being individuals. I'm not trying to be friends with Trevor Bauer. I just want to see the guy pitch professionally as a baseball player.
Is the only sport where your character comes into play with the Hall of Fame. You got guys in NFL and NBA that are in the Hall of Fame. They might have been Ray Lewis. Ray Lewis stabbed somebody. His buddy took the weight for it, and that's why he continued to play, because Ray Lewis paid that kid to take the charges. You understand? And he's in the Hall of Fame. Nobody brought that up. Major League Baseball is the only one. Look, your statistics determine if you're good enough to be on the team, if you're good enough to win titles, if you're good enough to go to the Hall of Fame. Not what you had for breakfast, or you called your neighbor an idiot, or it's crazy. I don't get it. I don't.
Yeah, I just think that the whole Trevor Bauer, either he pitches or he doesn't. Quit dragging this
He
thing.
must
out
have
any longer.
pissed in Dave.
There's more to it than
Yeah.
we're.
Oh
they're
no,
letting
I
us
know. That's
Yeah.
why I'm actually taking the deferring route here, letting you guys talk about amongst yourselves.
Punt it to
There
us.
are times, Sal, Lou, and Rick, that I don't mind not saying as much, and this is one of those situations where I'm just going to let you guys just say it, and I'm going to defer and take the fifth on this. I'd like to see him pitch, and I'm surprised it hadn't been resolved by then. And we know that Barry Bonds is the biggest jerk on the planet. And I'm trying to be nice about it, okay? Whether it's an SEC
wasn't John
broadcast.
Rocker a huge, well-known
Yeah.
idiot, and he got to pitch for all those years?
He went to the
Right,
Rangers.
right.
Look at Ty Cobb.
I mean, he was a black
Ty Cobb
sheep
was this
after the fact.
horrible
But
racist.
during the fact, I mean, it wasn't really a big deal.
Right.
Ty
John
Cobb's probably the
Rocker
most
said he
hated
didn't care about the
player
New
in the
York.
world. And
John
I mean, he allegedly went into the stands, took this guy's prosthetic leg off, and beat him with it. That's what Ty Cobb did, allegedly.
Well,
And he's the greatest player of all time, in my opinion.
They embellished that story, but yeah, he was a crass.
And 6 people showed up to his funeral. What does that tell you?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, nevertheless, we'll stay on point with Trevor Bauer. I'd like to see the guy pitch at some point. I'd like to see some resolution. But judging by what I'm hearing by you guys, there's more to the situation that meets the eye.
I have no idea what's going on.
We know that he's an a-hole. We get that he's an a-hole.
Yeah.
We get that he might have done something terrible. But if he's not going to face charges in a court of law, and they're not going to send him to prison or whatever it might
arrested
be,
for nothing.
then
they make him out to be like Ted Bundy. I'm like, I don't know what he did. Did he rape women? I mean, and this happened like during the height of the Me Too movement, and that hurt him too. And him not being likable.
Supposedly beat a woman up, and there was
I have no
rough sex and assault. But the DA didn't find any evidence to her story. And listen, that can go. Listen, guys can get lucky, slip through the cracks.
We're not
but a judge.
listen,
Lou, if I call a judge today and say, Lou Landers threatened my life, I can get a restraining order on you just on my word, because it's not putting you away, anything. It's keeping you away from me. A judge wouldn't grant a restraining order for that woman against Trevor Bauer. What does that tell you? And the union is in on this extension of this leave thing. So I say, again, there's something we're not knowing. And it's not just because he's an ass, because they're paying him $32 million to be an ass. They're still paying him. So, it's like, it's not over. We don't know where it's going, but there's so many contradictory things here. But we don't know it all. There's no way that's being reported.
It seems to be like he's a scapegoat for the MLB, sort of like with Ray Rice and all that stuff. And like you said, you have Ray Lewis.
Ozuna or Chapman the scapegoats?
Well, yeah, Ray Lewis.
Exactly have they done any
killed 2 people.
Well, they obviously don't like him. I understand that, but that's not a reason. That's not a reason.
I can't stand Trevor Bauer. I think he's arrogant as can be with that stupid sword thing, but let the guy pitch and nothing's happened to him. And I have no idea what's going on with him. I don't know if he's Ted Bundy or something, but nothing's happened to him. And you got other people on there who have assaulted people, who have killed people, who have raped people. You just mentioned Deshaun Watson. I mean, and it's just so much contradiction in the world. Just like with masks, some players you can wear them, some players you can't. If you're a great player and you're likable, and if he was hitting 400 or pitching no hitters, he'd be pitching right now. It just
comes down to one simple thing. The guy hasn't been charged yet as Watson. And I think that when you talk about just the legal system alone, okay, that to me would stand enough merit to say he belongs in the field, and that's it. Since we have a guy from Philadelphia, okay, I saw the Marlins beat the Phillies 11-3, and obviously Eliezer Hernandez looked like Cy Young on that particular day, but yet Bryce Harper went deep to right field. I had to get my home run thing sooner or later with a Philadelphia guy. So, all right, well, let's talk about Joe Girardi before we close it out, okay? I know the Phillies are big spenders. I talked about the 11-3 loss, and the Marlins took 3 or 4 over the weekend. Very quickly, Sal, what's going on with the Phillies? Do you think Girardi?
It's a number of things. There's a ton of lumber there, and you got to play complete ball. You can't just wait for the 3-run homer like Baltimore used to do when oh Christ, what was his name? When Weaver was the manager. But not to make excuses, but Harper's elbow's hurt. That's why he's not in the field. And, a guy like Harper, I think it detracts from your game if you're just hitting. I really believe that. I think he can stay focused enough to still be productive in that fashion. But you got Nola is a mystery. He pitched well last night and still came on the short end. I think they were over anxious because the bats have gone in the tank. And did you see the pitches? I mean, they were like 78 miles an hour. They were throwing a bunch of off-speed stuff at them, and they were getting themselves out. So, you got to be patient. You got to play more fundamental ball. I think they're going to right the ship.
I can tell you, though, Sal, that was a big issue when Girardi was with the Yankees, too. It was all about the home run, relying on the home run. I mean, it's still an issue for the Yankees now, but that seems to be an issue for Girardi. It wasn't when he managed the Marlins.
It's league-wide. It's not just us. But if you have good ball players, you take advantage of situation ball. You play ball. I mean, come on, man. I don't get it. How many times they don't even know how to bunt some of them because you're in a 1-1 game in the ninth inning. The guy gets on, right? Even first and second, no outs. I don't care if Babe Ruth's at the plate. I'm bunting those two guys to second and third because anything that, the 8 ways you can get on base, anything can happen, and the run that wins the game scores. So,
yeah, well, forget about the fact that it sets up a wild pitch, an error, a sac fly, keeps you out of the double play.
Right.
And ending double play. I mean, it's
fundamental
baseball.
Yeah. It's all about hitting those 500-foot home runs at my bat flip, and let me put it on Instagram. I think ESPN will talk about it. Who's that Reds player that said he didn't? I'm going to be honest with you. I'm just looking at my numbers right now, and it's all about my numbers. And I think he's like 1 for 28 right now. Yeah, and so I mean that's just a generation right now. It's all about me.
Smack him for saying that.
I put it on my Facebook, and I just thought this is the problem with the world. Is just me. It's all about my Instagram, my TikTok. Maybe Good Morning America will follow me. I'll bet you ESPN will have my home run. Oh, by the way, we lost 14-3. We're in last place, but hey, I'm on ESPN, and that's sad.
Damn shame.
Well, all I can say is what I saw Sunday was when I saw a lineup that had Kyle Schwarber, Nick Castellanos, Bryce Harper in it. I certainly expected to see a whole lot more than 3 runs.
Yeah.
And the Miami Marlins to me look like world champions in that particular game, but I'm not going any further because we know the Marlins struggle with their hitting and their pitching is their strength. So with that said, I know we covered a lot of abnormalities in the game of baseball today, and it was really fun to go on the different directions that we ended up going in. So, Sal, it's been a pleasure having you on the show tonight. With that said, okay, we'll let you let everybody know how they can get a hold of you. This is 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. My name is Scott Morganroth, Motor City Madmouth. Glad to be joined by Sal Tartaglia, Lou Landers, Rick Curti. And, this show here, just to let everybody know before Sal goes, you can find it on iHeartRadio. So subscribe to 108 Stitches Baseball Talk there. And you can find us on our YouTube channel. So please subscribe. And, of course, on our website as well. All right, Sal, take it away. Let everybody know how they get a hold of you. Another shot to promote your book.
Well, my book is a World Series chronology, and it can be found on Amazon. Again, it gives you little odd tidbits that you wouldn't find in other publications. For instance, real quick, 1960, when Mazeroski hit the only Game 7 walk-off homer in all 116 World Series played, they came up to bat in the ninth inning. In the ninth inning, games tied 9-9. Maz wears number 9. So just little weird things like that might put a smile on your face. There's a chock full of things like that in my book. I co-host a show out of Philly called Liberty Bell Smack with Mark Mancini and Marianne Costello. That could be you see him on Facebook Live. If not, the WWDB-AM 860 Talk 860 app. You can hear it clearly, not just in the region, but anywhere nationwide. And I have a Facebook page of the same name as my book, World Series Chronology, and also, my wall is my name, Sal Tartaglia. Feel free to contact me and any kind of baseball knowledge. I love bantering back and forth with like minds. And the pleasure was all mine, Scott. Thank you.
Why don't you let everybody know how they can get your book, Sal?
It's on Amazon.com.
Okay, very good. Mm-hmm. And Lou, go ahead.
Well, Sal, thanks for coming on. Great time having you. So thank you for that. And Of course, follow me on Twitter at Landers Talks. You can see it right there. I'm pointing my mouse at it, although you can't see what I'm doing, so I'm not sure why I'm doing it like that. DrRoto.com, director of MLB content, Sirius XM, Sports Byline USA, Armed Forces Network. I'm all over the place, usually talking baseball, sometimes some NFL, fantasy sports, daily fantasy sports, sports betting, whatever it might be. So come check it out. I encourage you.
All right, Rick.
You can find me on my website at www.charlottebats.com. I'm on Facebook at Charlotte MLB. I'm also on there at Charlotte Bats Baseball. I'm also on Instagram at Charlotte Bats. I'm on Twitter, Charlotte Bats Baseball, and I'm also on LinkedIn under Rick Curti. You can go on our website, you can sign our petition. And if you have any comments or questions, my email address is cltbatsbaseball@gmail.com.
And before I say a few last things, I do want to send our prayers to Buck Martinez, who obviously is taking a little bit of time off because of cancer. So, Buck, Lou, Sal, myself, and Rick wish you the best of luck. I hope you get back in the broadcast booth. I had a chance to meet Buck Martinez one time. Super nice guy, a great broadcaster. So
very nice guy. I met him when I lived in Toronto. Very nice
Yeah.
guy. I wish him well.
While it's at the top of my head, I just wanted to make sure we had a chance to send our deepest prayers to Buck Martinez. God bless. Get well. Can't wait to see you back in the booth again. And to close it out on my end, once again, you can find the shows on iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcasts, as well as the YouTube channel. You can follow us at Tribune South on Twitter, and you can find me on LinkedIn as well, or go to our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, or email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. So on behalf of Rick Curti, Mr. Opinion, Sal Tartaglia, and Lou Landers, what a nice Philly Smack reunion here tonight. Been a great opportunity to talk baseball, and I enjoy watching the pennants fly all over the place. So with that said, folks, thank you very much for joining us, and we will catch you on the next edition of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. Have a good evening, everybody.
You as well. Thank you.